Okay, so hello everybody. Today we've got Emily Pearson with us. I think this is becoming a bit of a habit. Every time I talk to somebody at the moment, I'm like, oh, should we record a video? So we were talking because tomorrow we have our Inspiration North Meetup and Emily is one of the panellists. We were talking about that. So I was just wondering, Emily, how are things in your world at the moment?
Oh, probably the same as everybody else's right now. I think we've all been overtaken by the COVID-19 crisis, and I think that's what a lot of people are just constantly thinking about right now. And I think from our Minds Works perspective, now more than ever is the time when employers should be putting the mental health and well-being at the top of their agenda for their employees. And one of the biggest problems that we are seeing, and it's echoed in Personnel Today's research and an article that they've just released today, is that before COVID-19 happened a couple of weeks ago, 31% of managers felt as if they were comfortable enough to have conversations and support employees around mental health. 31% is really, really poor, considering we've been talking about mental health in the workplace for the past 5 years. So it makes us feel as if we've come into this crisis with the majority of workplaces and managers not prepared for the impacts that it's actually having on employees' mental health and well-being. So this has become a huge concern, and what we are seeing is that a lot of organisations are in crisis mode themselves. And as you probably know a little bit about the amygdala, our threat defense system, once our amygdala is triggered, we don't tend to think from our frontal cortex and utilising our ability to problem solve. So I think what we are seeing is this crisis mode is still happening for organisations. So we haven't seen a massive increase in organisations wanting us to deliver virtual support and training, which unfortunately is a massive shame, because now more than ever is when it's needed. We've had a couple of our clients who are ongoing have, got in contact, and we've said, this is what we can deliver. We're here to support employees by providing them with some tools and a virtual talk on how to use these tools to be able to evaluate your own mental health and create an action plan. And we're also still here to provide manager training as well, virtually online. And unfortunately, people are just not in that space yet to be able to open up their perspective on what we need to tackle next. Right. So yeah, it's been a little bit of a strange situation for us when we know more than ever our services are needed. We're the quietest that we have been in the past 18 months.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So what kinds of things that what will be happening in employees' heads, I suppose, at the moment?
Yeah, they've started to do a little bit of research on this, actually. The University of Sheffield have been doing some research over the past 4 weeks, and what they found was they surveyed about 2,000 people around questions about mental health and the coronavirus. And on the day that the Prime Minister announced that we were all going into lockdown, the mental health of these respondents almost doubled, with an increase in depression and anxiety. So straight away we're seeing an increase just off going into lockdown and what that means, and the fear factor to that. That's without adding the additional problems that they're now having to face from the workplace and how the workplaces are managing that. It's a huge amount of change for people, having to work from home, getting used to having our family members around or not around, as some of the cases may be. Technology, all this new technology that people might not have had to use before, can be quite overwhelming for people. Problems around, am I going to have a job in the next 2 weeks? How, all of these issues. We know that if we just had one of those problems, we would probably be able to manage them. But now we're seeing, people are experiencing 5, 6, 7 problems all at the same time. And it's just significantly increasing the levels of anxiety, stress, and even depression for people as well.
Yeah. So what the sort of the quick wins, I suppose, for employers to be able to implement quickly in order to support their staff?
Yeah. I think what we know is control is going to be key here. Control for the employees, so that they're able to control what they're doing, the workspace, how they interact with people is going to be really important. So I think for us, what we need to help organisations to do is, how do managers and employees work together to make sure that that control is distributed evenly and to the right people, with a structured plan. Control and structure are brilliant ways of reducing our stress and anxiety levels. So what we're doing is offering 30-minute talk virtually online, using some free resources that we've designed specifically for how to use these tools, so that you can work together on creating that support to put it in place for people in the workplace, whether they're still in the office or whether they're working remotely and from home. And I think for organisations who are struggling to think of what to do, then find an expert. There are people out there who are providing services like what Our Minds Work do, who can tell you in a very, very quick and easy, simple, structured way, and provide the tools for you to do it. This stuff doesn't need to be complex when you know how to do it.
No, I think it's a difficult time for employees, managers, organisations, humans in general at the moment, because it is just so, this is not normal to what we're experiencing. So you've got some free resources. Are they on your website?
No, not currently. Currently, we are sending them out to our clients and to other organisations who we feel might be interested, and we have their contact details. So if anybody would like those resources sent out, then they can get in touch with me, the LinkedIn or an email, and we can send them out to them. Can we put my email in the comments below, maybe?
Yes, we can do.
Excellent, good stuff. And we can send them out. And what the free resources are that we're providing are 2 tools. The first tool is Our Minds Work's mental health continuum model. So this is a traffic light system. It's super easy to use. We basically look at it as we would look at our physical health. So we look at it in the same way between being physically well and physically unwell, and how we can move through those stages. So it's the same understanding with the mental health continuum. What are we like when we're mentally well? What are we like when we're experiencing levels of stress? What are we like when we're really unwell? And what are we like when we're experiencing crisis? So it's all traffic light systemed. So a very easy way to evaluate your own mental health, but then a really easy way to communicate that to people, all that it might be needed. If you're my manager, Michelle, and I am your colleague, and we're having a conversation, and it's, how are you managing today? If we both know about the mental health continuum, all I would need to say to you is, actually, I'm in the orange section today, and you would know what that meant. And then we would be able to have a conversation about, okay, then how do we get you into the green section? And the continuum that we have as a resource has all those actions there already for people to think about. So this is a dead simple and easy way to start a conversation about how are you today, without the overwhelming issues around trying to explain the way we feel, especially when we are overwhelmed. That can be quite difficult for people. And then our second resource that'll be in there is our Staying Well at Work support plan.
Mm-hmm.
So once you've evaluated your mental health and you've started to think about what your action plan can be,
Mm-hmm.
you can then put it into the Staying Well at Work support plan format. This would be where you could share it with your manager. So it asks questions about, what can trigger poor mental health for you at work. So we have to remember that employers have a duty of care to look after the health and well-being of their staff, whether they're at home or in an office or another environment. So that still stands.
Mm-hmm.
What also still stands is the health and safety executive legislation to reduce work-related stress by using stress risk assessments. So the Staying Well at Work support plan is perfect for a collaborative tool between a manager and an employee to come up with a plan of what can I do to look after my mental health while I'm in my workspace, wherever that might be. But what help do I need from you as a manager? And that might be supportive measures. It might be even reasonable adjustments if somebody actually has a mental health problem and is really struggling.
Yeah.
So it just all fits into what employers should be doing and must be doing. And it's just creating a very easy to use, structured support plan that is collaborative between a manager and an employee, so that at the end of that conversation, you both know what your responsibilities are in supporting that employee's mental health. Yeah.
No, they sound like really useful tools.
Yeah, they are useful, and we've been using them in workplaces for a long time now. So we know that they work and function in any types of industry, any types of workplace, remote workers. So we have trialed and tested these. So we're more than happy to share them with any organisation that needs them. And if an organisation feels as if they want something a little bit more in depth, we can come online just like this.
Mm-hmm.
And deliver virtual talks around using the tools so that people can ask questions. I think mental health is such a complex topic. People need the space to ask questions when we're trying to explain, using the tools there as well. So I'm more than happy to do that for companies.
Mm-hmm.
And again, our manager training is still available virtually as well. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm sure that's all really, really useful for people out there in organisations, managers. And it's almost having that conversation is just so difficult.
yeah.
And, what you mentioned before about the amygdala getting triggered. Obviously, people are making bad decisions at the moment. And it's, it's almost you have to forgive yourself and each other and kind of almost be able to move on, because I'm sure there's even in like families and in other relationships there's it's hard at the moment, and everyone's got very shallow pools of patience, I found.
Yeah, without a doubt, definitely. And I think when we get online tomorrow and at the event, I have 5 tips to help employees and managers and whoever is working from home at the moment, how we can structure. And again, there's that control and structure in there again, is how do we control and structure everything that we possibly can to make sure that we're looking after our mental health, whether we're working from home or we're just at home, not working. So I'm looking forward to giving out a little bit of guidance around that tomorrow as well, and looking forward to hearing some questions. I can imagine there'll be quite a few right now.
Yeah.
But from my own personal experience, when I was sat thinking about, what tips can we share that would be really beneficial, the planning for me is so important. And it's not so much the planning during the week, because so my husband is an HGV driver, so he leaves on a Monday and comes back on a Friday, so I get to do whatever I want in the house during the week. and a lot of that is work related, Monday to Friday. I think the planning for me is more of when he's home on a weekend. All of a sudden, you know, we're now two people in the same space with very different energies. He's been away all week, out and about, talking to people on the outside, and I haven't. So he wants to come home and relax and chill, and I'm basically climbing the walls by Saturday. You know, I need to get out. So I think that planning is just so important, especially with relationships. Even though we're in the same space, it doesn't mean that we're connected. And I think this is a really important part of how we plan our days. How do we connect with the people who are in our space? You know, kids on computer games for hours and hours and hours. You know, you sat in the opposite room, a different room to your partner. We're not connecting with each other, and right now, more than ever, we need to be connecting with each other on that connection level. Whether you're in the same space or not, that element to it and planning that in, I think, is really important for managing and keeping our relationships alive. I think they've done a little bit of research, haven't they? And they've said by the end of the coronavirus, there's either going to be an increase in divorces or a baby boom.
Oh, I think both, definitely both. I don't know whether this is true or not, but you know, one of these things you read on Facebook, but it did make me chuckle. So the day one of lockdown being over in Wuhan, 88 people filed for divorce.
Yeah. Oh dear, honestly. But this is it, you know, people are in the same space, and without that connection, you have nothing. You're just two people living in a separate room from each other, and that can be really, really toxic and damaging to your relationships, definitely. So I think that one for me, and being a newlywed, you know, not even a year yet, so I think that relationship element for me is a pretty important one for my mental health and well-being, definitely.
No, so you'll be listening intently to Michaela tomorrow then, because she's focusing on the couple stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be taking notes.
Awesome. Well, thank you ever so much for
thanks for having me.
chatting. So I'll stop the recording now.
Okay.